Lancôme приветствует вас. Сегодняшняя тема.
The Commissar salutes you. Today's topic is Argentina versus United Kingdom. Falklands invasion revisited. What would happen if Argentina tried to invade the Falklands again? This time, right off the bat, I'm saying Argentina cannot take the Falklands. Not today and not in the next half a decade at least. Now why is that? Last time Argentina took the Falklands, islands were almost defenseless, and the whole operation were really a surprise to the British. Today, British forces are much stronger. They feature 3 radar sites for air and sea surveillance, an anti-aircraft SAM battery, a company of British Army soldiers and Falklands' own volunteer defense force. 4 Eurofighter Typhoons, several helicopters and support planes are present. A small patrol ship is also always present, as well as a Royal Navy frigate or destroyer rotating their deployments. That's a total of over 1,200 military personnel. Last time, Argentina invaded with 600 Marines and 20 combat vehicles in the first wave, landing them from ships. To successfully invade again, Argentina would need complete surprise, planning and training for the whole operation in secret to prevent British countermeasures. Also, it would need to assemble a force several times larger than the last time. Such preparations might take up to a year. For successful invasion, Argentina would need to neutralize British radars first, then deal with British warship and fighter jets, and finally win over defenders with a large landing force. All that within 48 hours to prevent British reinforcements. After 48 hours, it is but guaranteed British would successfully send both further warplanes and further ground troops via Ascension Island. British have a sizable fleet of transport planes, enabling them to send perhaps additional company of soldiers and their supplies per day. And even if they lose the airfields, they would still be able to paradrop both light troops and supplies thanks to aerial refueling. As mentioned, Argentina would require an invasion force many times stronger than one in 1982. Today, their forces feature 12 combat brigade-sized units. 4 battalions are trained for amphibious assault and another 3 battalions trained for paradrops and airborne insertions. They would also require a navy capable of transporting them. Their navy decommissioned their landing ship in the 90s and now uses a cargo ship and a modified Type 42 destroyer for the assault role. Possibly the cargo ship could lower amphibious assault vehicles from the deck into the sea using its crane. Argentina's force is down to 11 such vehicles, each carrying 22 soldiers. Argentina would be forced to use a variety of other Navy ships or commercial ferries to carry troops. Assembling such a fleet would be hard to hide. Even if they managed to avoid British fighter jets or Royal Navy warship, they would still have to win over the ground defenses quickly. Argentina may seem to have a decent navy on paper, but in reality, the whole force seldomly sails out and seldomly trains due to lack of funding and spare parts. Ship availability is questionable, and some weapon systems are past their certification date. Very little money was invested in armed forces in the last 5 to 10 years. Even if part of the fleet could sail out, it would be met by planes striking from the air and a warship striking from the distance due to better intel. Only real threat for the British warship would be the submarines, but they have hardly sailed in recent years and may be next to useless. Only ships with meaningful air defenses are therefore destroyers, if their SAM systems are working as advertised. Even so, their range isn't enough to keep away helicopters and planes from tracking the invasion fleet from afar, but they could prevent some attacks. Even if all the planning for the invasion is hidden, embarking the troops into ships would take hours and the trip itself would take over 15 hours. British reinforcements would be already assembling in the UK before any amphibious assault could commence. Airborne assault could be quicker but unlikely. Because of the distance, helicopters could be used only from the ships. Transport planes with paratroops would be met by British jets. But even if it succeeds, a few hundred airborne troops without heavy weapons would be unlikely to make a difference. Only real possibility for denying the British quick reinforcements would be to damage the island's airstrips from the air and keep them damaged in further airstrikes. Unfortunately, Argentinian air forces are in worse state than their navy. Almost all of their combat fleet has been taken out of service due to little or no maintenance in recent years. Their super-étendard planes don't fly and their Mirage jets have been retired. Remaining plane fleet is comprised of 3 airworthy Skyhawk jets, 18 Pampa trainer jets, and 24 Pucara ground attack turboprops. Almost all those planes would be complete sitting ducks for British Typhoons. Using unguided bombs against airstrip under anti-aircraft fire would require a lot of luck. Continuous air attacks which would prevent airstrip repairs would simply be unrealistic. At this point, Argentinian options are pretty much exhausted, as the naval assault is unlikely to succeed in time, even if somehow they manage to cross the sea untouched and disembark in very large numbers. If UK gets a chance to use its runways and sends reinforcements, additional key systems such as artillery and attack helicopters would be sent alongside more jet fighters and soldiers. That would pretty much ensure no way of success for whatever forces Argentina might have left to use for the invasion. The reason behind such poor state of Argentinian military is money, or better said, lack of political will to invest money in key areas. While increases in defense spending were often announced, vast inflation rate regularly ate up those increases. Largest issue for Argentine military is that it is either too large or too well paid for its budget. While other South American countries rely on forces largely made up of conscripts, Argentina uses professional soldiers only. Furthermore, their salaries are much higher than the average salary in Argentina. While in theory that approach can give well-trained soldiers, the overall numbers are far too numerous for the given budget. At 70,000 strong, some 80% of the budget goes to personnel expenses. With operational and training expenses, virtually nothing is left for modernization. Argentina's military budget and structure is in reality tailored more for keeping internal peace than to wage offensive war. With defense budget in amount of roughly 1% of their GDP, or tens of thousands of soldiers too many, Argentinian forces can't really threaten the Falklands until that changes. And even with hypothetical sudden change, it would take 5 to 10 years to rebuild such capability. Verdict: no chance of Argentinian victory. If you like my videos, do subscribe. And if you really like Binkov, you can support him via Patreon.